You don't have to understand this section fully. Now, one thing that we didn't really go over and we kind of glossed over was this memory keyword. And you'll notice if we actually delete this keyword and you try to compile, we'll get an error. Data location must be memory or call data for parameter in function, but none was given.
Now, there are actually 6 places you can store data in Solidity. You have the stack, memory, storage, call data, code, and logs.
We're not going to go over all of these areas right now, but we are going to go over some of the big ones, which are call data, memory, and storage. And this is going to be a little bit advanced here. So if you don't understand this section the first time, don't worry about it. Just keep pushing through. It'll make more sense as you go later on in the course. Call data and memory both mean that this variable is only going to exist temporarily. It's only going to exist for the duration of the function call. Anytime we call add person with a different name, we can only access this name variable that one time that we call this function. If I call add name Patrick 7, and now I try to list of people at 0, obviously we see Patrick at favorite number 7, we can actually never access that Patrick variable ever again because it existed in memory. It existed for a very short period of time, just for that single call. We could also have call data here, and we'll go ahead, remove this, deploy the dropdown, and do the same thing. We'll add Patrick, and actually, you don't even need the quotes. Patrick, we'll do 88, add person, we'll see if it's in there. Sure is. Call data and memory both mean temporary variables. Inside of functions, most variables automatically default to memory variables. Strings are a special type in Solidity, so you have to specify memory or call data, and it has to do with the way arrays work in memory, but we'll talk about that much later in the course. Now, the question obviously then follows, okay, well, if call data and memory are both temporary variables, why have 2? What's the difference between these 2? Well, let's try something. Let's have this be a memory variable. And in here, we'll say name equals cat. So we're going to reassign whatever people put in here to cat. Let's compile this. Looks like it compiles fine. Now let's do call data and try to compile. We get an error. Type error. Type literal string cat is not implicitly convertible to expected type string call data. The difference between memory and call data is that a memory variable can be changed. It can be manipulated. If we pass a memory variable to a function, we can go ahead, memory, and I hit Command S to compile. This is valid Solidity. This is not. If you pass a call data variable, you cannot modify it. Call data is temporary variables that cannot be modified. Memory is temporary variables that can be modified. And storage is permanent variables that can be modified. My favorite number was actually implicitly converted to a storage variable since it's added in this state context outside of a function. If you create a variable that's outside of any function inside of a contract, it'll automatically be a storage variable. And let's delete this line. Let's compile. Let's deploy again. Let's delete this, deploy. We know it's a permanent variable because we can hit retrieve and we can always access what is in favorite number. So if we store 1, 2, 3, we hit store, we can hit retrieve and we can access 1, 2, 3. So this variable 1, 2, 3 exists outside of function calls. Now, even though I said there are more places like stack, code, log, return, etc., we can only make these variables call data, memory, or storage. And like I said, we'll explain that later in the course. So let's go ahead, let's add this back to memory because that's normally what you'll see. Now, the next question that logically follows is, oh, okay, Patrick, well, why do we need to put memory here, but we don't need to put memory over here? In fact, if we try to put memory there, we get an error. Data location can only be specified for array, struct, or mapping types, but memory was given. Like I was saying earlier, arrays, structs, or mappings are considered special types in Solidity. And the way that memory management works under the hood makes it so that we have to put this memory keyword. UN256 is known as a primitive type, and Solidity is smart enough to know where to put this favorite number always under the hood. Like we were saying earlier, a string is actually an array of bytes, and so as we just saw with the error, we need to put the memory keyword for arrays. So then the next question is, okay, well, what about the storage variable? Can I put that here? No, you can't put that here either. Since this is a function, Solidity is smart enough to at least know that, okay, this is a temporary variable that you're working with. It's got to be memory or call data. It's not going to be storage, since this name is only going to exist for a short duration. So you got to pick one of these other 2. So the summary of this section is that structs, mappings, and arrays need to be given this memory keyword. A string is an array of bytes, so it needs this memory or call data keyword.